Alright, welcome back to the channel. It's Maroth here. I think I've finally worked out what I'm doing with these videos, and today I want to bring the spotlight to my favorite hero in the game, my boy, Orochi. And today we also have a little fun giveaway. So at random points throughout this video there'll be codes on screen, like so. They are one-time use only, so first in, first served. And yeah, good luck to all of you and enjoy. So before I begin, put a little disclaimer here. Orochi is an S plus hero from the God faction. What this really means is that you probably don't build him. Nah, I kid, but before you head on down to that metal store and snap up as many copies as you can, hear me out, because he is like absolutely enormous investment, and if you're not sure exactly what you're doing, or you care about ranking number one in Dominator Arena, for example, I'd advise you to build those first. However, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. Alright, so looking at his base stats, what can we see? Well, we can see he has an absolutely massive HP pool sitting at 3.26 million, moderate attack at 98.9 thousand, and about average armor sitting at around 3,700. So what does this inform us of? Well, it shows us actually that he's quite well suited to soaking damage, more so than dealing it, at least at first glance. But these stats do work to advantage, and we'll cover that in a bit. So, moving on to his skills. Skill number 1, Toxic Mark. Orochi erupts a massive laser poison, dealing 150% of his attack damage to all enemies, marking them with Toxic Mark for 4 rounds. So what Toxic Mark does, when attacking, being attacked, or using a skill, the enemy receives 4% of their maximum HP as damage, and their restore effect is reduced by 30%. At level 3, the base damage of the skill is increased to 200%, and the max HP damage of Toxic Mark goes up to 6%. This is Orochi's way of dealing mass damage to entire teams. It doesn't hit very hard on its own, but the added mark is very important. It's a little bit more niche, however it's very good for breaking heavily defensive lineups, and it relies on the enemy's HP stat rather than his sort of middling attack. However, as we'll go over soon, Orochi can in fact boost his attack to insane levels. Skill number 2, Raid. After enemies attack Orochi, he has a 50% chance to launch a sneak attack, dealing 100% of his attack damage and recovering 80% of his attack damage as HP. This goes up to 150% of his attack damage and 100% attack damage recovered, with a 65% chance to launch at level 3. I think this is what a lot of people sort of miss when you look at his skills. It lets him function incredibly well sort of as a Thorns tank. It means that you really want Orochi to be getting hit, right? It activates for every hit received, even for skills, right? So if it activates, this means, for example, if Groot hit him with all 15 arrows, he'd be getting hit back 15 times by Orochi, potentially, you know? So this makes that 98k base attack not actually that small either. It gives him more chances to output more damage, especially when he's in position 1. Skill number 3, Regeneration of Terror. When Orochi dies, he will resurrect. This will only happen once per battle, and he will recover 30% of his maximum HP, which will go up to 50% at level 3. Okay, this is what Orochi is known for. He's got a self-revive. He was the first hero to sort of have that, and I mean, there's a couple more with it now, but yeah. It's a little bit janky how it works. It was probably developed at a time when they didn't really know how everything worked properly, but yeah, if he's the last hero alive, his resurrect will not trigger, and it will just count as a loss. If this is ever changed or updated to sort of a more modern self-resurrect, please, devs, please, he'll be much stronger for sure. But it's also actually an incredible asset used correctly, especially combined with his unique equipment, which we'll go over after his skills. And it allows him to share damage for a turn with your off tank, and then come back and turn back the tides. It can also sort of buy you a little bit more time and will clear any control effects on him. This is very useful in just about every area of the game. So in X War, you can sort of put him up front, and then he can soak up a bit of damage, die, come back, and then soak up a bit more damage, and really sort of boost your team's longevity. For example, skill number 4, 8 Head Tails. Orochi gains 10% HP and attack, and this goes up to 20% level 3. Not much to say about this one, but it does boost his stats from middling to good. Like, his HP goes to absurd, and his attack goes to pretty good. Alright. And now, after that, we'll just dive straight into his exclusive, Soul Condensation. After Orochi resurrects, he gets an attack boost. At level 1, this attack boost is 10%. At level 10 to 19, it's 20%. At 20 to 29, it's 30%. And at level 30, it's 50%. So this plays into his res mechanic, and it upgrades his attack to Zeus/Pierre levels, or even further. He does actually need to die and resurrect to gain this bonus, which tends to make it more PvP focused than anything. However, it is very significant as to how you should sort of play him. Alright, so you kind of want him to die once. Once he dies and comes back stronger, he will also have a bigger self-heal as well, and he'll deal more damage. But even if he doesn't die, it's also fine, because you're just too strong anyway, right? So it's like, looking at some of his parts, Orochi is a high damage dealing Thorns tank. He really wants to sit in position 1 and just return fire on everything coming at him. He will keep the enemy's HP pools shrinking through every action, which kind of sort of buffs your whole team. He has a niche of breaking heavily defensive teams and works well as a hyper offense team main tank. His biggest contribution to you will probably be in PvP, however it is to be noted that he is hard countered by Anubis. Any team which runs Anubis will essentially make him useless. Do not run him versus Anubis. Like, he loses his ability to resurrect, and that's not okay. Moving on from that, he is an excellent main tank in boss battles also. He will massively increase your DPS there, built correctly. While it might be tempting to slap in the backline, he just simply misses out on too much of his kit. Like, you're wasting your slot if you're putting him in the backline. You're better off with just about any other DPS in the game to fill that role. Next up, we'll go over his sort of talents and stigmata. Talents, alright, you can run just about anything on Orochi. Like, tank talents, DPS talents, all of them are really good on him. Even some of the support ones are actually quite good. But in general, like, you want to be changing them out to suit your situation. However, I know not everyone has time for that, so I will cover a little nice cookie cutter build here that's useful in most situations. So at Legendary, I would go with Precise Strike. This is pretty straightforward. Orochi excels at breaking defenders, so boosting his damage to warriors helps a lot. Mythic. Vitality Armor. Sitting in position 1, boosting his tankiness is a must, right? He wants to be tanking hits. It also syncs up with his skills quite nicely and just gives him that extra sort of durability. Mythic +1. This could be literally any of them. Like, actually any of them. But I'll recommend Blade Slash here just to further boost his tank killing power. But again, choose what you want. Mythic +3. Alright. Here, I'm actually going to recommend Critical Cure. Sneak will trigger while stunned, which means that he can be healing himself and dishing out damage while stunned, right? And Critical Cure, you probably want to have a decent crit chance on him as a DPS anyway. You're going to be getting a better self heal. If he's not dying, however, you could run more DPS focused talents as well, because you do need him to get that first death. He does spread Ghost Curse excellently, and Concentration is also a great general option. Like, yeah, if he's dying fine, then Critical Cure will be way bigger than the others. But if he's not dying, then the others are also good options. Mythic +4. This is between Tactical Shield and Shield Breaker, depending on what you need more. Though outside of PvP, more often than not, Tactical Shield will win out. In PvP, more often than not, Shield Breaker will win out, so it's really just where you're playing him in the game. And Mythic +5, this one's pretty much the only one that I would never switch out, and that's Gaze of Death. He's guaranteed to last the distance. Like, you're going to get that 50% buff to his attack. That'll massively just increase his performance both defensively and offensively. So, I'm going to cover Stigmata very briefly here. So here's a low base attack, and his ability doesn't smack very, very hard. Like, building up skill damage on him, it's just not really worth it. So this sort of incentivizes domination, because that synergizes with his abilities incredibly well, and it will stack with his ultimate's debuff. Yeah, so dealing that percent HP damage is what you want to be going for. So Domination 4 out of 4, and Judgment 2 out of 2 is what I'm going to recommend. Judgment, because Orochi has heaps of ways to boost his attack to ridiculous levels, and pushing it even further will, yeah, I think that's the way to go on him. Done a bit of testing, and that's where I've gotten the best bang for my buck. Alright. Artifacts. Now, this one's going to be a bit of a bigger one than normal. I've been doing a ton of testing with different artifacts recently, actually. I was just messing with just about everything on him. And the thing is, right, he uses so many of them way too well. And in terms of artifacts, Orochi is spoiled for choice. However, I'll list my sort of top 3 in no particular order and a couple of honorable mentions and sort of break down why. My number 1 will be Fictional Reality. This makes him stupidly durable. Like, he will sit there and soak damage all day, and his sneak will heal him more. And once he resurrects, like, he just doesn't seem to go down after that. It's pretty crazy. He's also got a massive base HP statistic, so that percentage HP boost is huge. And the damage immune helps him stay alive a lot longer. Like, it's actually crazy how good it is on him. Number 2, Divine Prayer. This is the same basic idea as Fictional Reality. However, it sort of gives him an extra resurrect. So it's sort of like puts him into this weird role of continuously coming back. It does take longer for him to get that attack boost off the resurrect, but it does make him like a bigger tank to snuff out. Number 3 would be Arbiter of Fate. Right, this is for raw DPS. Like, if you reckon he's tanky enough without artifacts and stuff, slap this on him. Right, Orochi can boost some pretty insane levels of attack already, and this will really, really push that. Like, you'll be potentially around like Focalor levels of absurd attack by the end of the battle, assuming everything goes your way. But yeah, no, this actually massive on him, and definitely worth it. So, honorable mentions, I'm going to list off Primal Power and Devil's Pupil. Right, Primal Power is sort of like a poor man's Arbiter, but it comes with defensive stats, so it's situationally more useful when you sort of want to get that extra damage out of him, but you want to give him a little bit of a defensive boost, right? And Devil's Pupil, this is on the honorable mentions because it is probably the best artifact for him, but not many people will ever get this, unfortunately. But it is the only Prelude of Evil artifact that is available for free. This artifact will make Orochi the ultimate Thorns tank. It has the best of all of the top 3 artifacts that I mentioned, pretty much, and it synergizes with his kit amazingly well, acting as a second sneak, so he's doubling down on that retaliation ability, and yeah, it syncs up so perfectly with him. But again, does cost $500 or free if you're lucky. I don't know anyone who's got the Devil's Pupil from that chest yet, although it could happen. It could happen. I'm praying for it every week. But yeah. So, alright. Uses and pros and cons. His main use is going to be in PvP. So, yeah, to summarize Orochi, he is a brilliant Thorns tank that fits on teams with a focus on offense. He's very powerful in PvP and has good usability versus bosses and also in X-War. He demands to be front and center so he can spread his sneak attack to whole teams and stop them from healing up with his ultimate. The anti-healing is actually quite important. That sort of fills another niche where he's preventing teams from sustaining too long, which is incredibly useful in a lot of different stages with crazy amounts of healers, and also against a lot of top tier PvP teams. He has the ability to massively boost his own attack through strategic play and builds. So going over his pros and cons, well, pros. He is Snake. What more could I say? But no, for real. He's got anti-heals, percentage of HP damage, ability to boost his attack to monstrous levels. He can self-revive. He's very tanky. And last and most importantly, he is Snake. So, if he's so amazing, what are his drawbacks? Well, the number one would be his res mechanic is real janky. Devs, please fix. The second one would be he does take a few rounds to get rolling, so if you're clearing things way too fast, then you're not really getting much value out of him. The third one is he's stupidly expensive and or hard to build. So it's going to be a very long-term build and investment. And for most people, Zeus will be a better option, given that you'd probably need to choose between one or the other. And his last one is that he is hard countered by Anubis. Which doesn't seem like a massive problem, but when you got a hero like this who is so hard to build, and there's another hero who's a bit easier to build, who essentially makes him completely useless, well, it's a bit of a problem, at least in my opinion. Anyway. So, wrapping things up, that's basically my thoughts on my boy Orochi, and I hope I did him justice. I hope it gives you all some insight into my favorite hero. Not everyone builds him, but if you are building him, good luck. I hope you found this video helpful. And always remember to like and subscribe for more content like this. Appreciate you all. Hope you got some good rewards from those codes that have been popping up through this video. And if you missed out, well, remember to subscribe and catch it as soon as possible next time. No. But for real though, catch you guys next time and cheers.